A girl passed away by a deserted roadside, her cold body uncovered beneath a grey winter afternoon sky. A traveler passing by saw this pitiful sight and, moved by a gentle sense of compassion, he took off the coat he was wearing and draped it over the deceased before quietly continuing his journey to stay on schedule. Another traveler arrived later and stood there for a long time, his heart aching for this lonely soul with no kin. He exerted all his strength to dig a deep grave, carefully placed the girl inside, and covered her with earth, sheltering her from the freezing wind and dew before moving on. In their next lives, when they were all reborn as humans, the girl met both men again under different circumstances. The warmth of that old coat stirred initial romantic feelings for the first man, but the profound bond of marriage, the one that lasts until the end of life, sharing both sweetness and bitterness, ultimately belonged to the second man. The debt of a coat that provided a brief moment of warmth could not compare to the debt of being buried. That deep act of kindness bound two lives into an unbreakable connection through the years. The relationship between a husband and wife has never been a mere coincidence in this volatile life. Behind a simple nod in a crowded street, a hurried handhold while crossing the road, or a shared roof casting shadows, every late afternoon are the threads of karmic debt woven hundreds of years ago through many lifetimes. Everyone who passes through our lives carries a debt or a kindness that needs to be repaid. Sometimes it is the debt of a smile, sometimes a tear, the debt of a whole heart from distant incarnations that ordinary memory cannot reach. When we understand the roots of these encounters, our view of the person sharing our bed naturally becomes less harsh and more tolerant. We no longer see their presence as a given, existing solely to serve our personal desires. This meeting is not for demanding or judging, but to complete what was left unfinished in lives long past. The fatigue that accumulates under one roof often carries the colors of a fading twilight as sunlight dies away behind old walls. On a wooden dining table with worn edges, stains of tea and grease act as invisible traces of daily time passing. An unwashed bowl sitting lonely in the sink, a pair of shoes left crooked at the entrance, or an unintentional word spoken in exhaustion can all become the spark that ignites a quarrel. In the silence of the night, the steady ticking of the clock seems to dig deeper into the resentment, smoldering in one's heart, turning trivial matters into giant ghosts weighing down the living space. These tiny cracks, if ignored, will silently grow, eroding the bond between two people without them even realizing it. The source of bitter words often lies in the expectation that our partner must meet our every whim, acting as a perfect mirror, reflecting our personal habits and preferences. Upon entering a life together, the thought naturally arises that the other person is responsible for satisfying our every habit, taste, and desire. Whenever reality falls short of expectation, disappointment accumulates, turning into a simmering resentment deep within. From a tiny grain of sand, through the lens of selfishness and demand, it transforms into a great mountain separating the two. Nagging and nitpicking are ways to vent internal discomfort, but these actions unintentionally burn away the few good things that both have spent years building together. When a person returns home after a long, hard day at work, their body is exhausted and their mind only wants a quiet corner to recharge. But if, upon stepping over the threshold, they are met with reproaches and scrutiny over trivialities, like a coat not hung properly or a smudge on the floor, the heart automatically erects a defensive wall. Haunting silence or fiery arguments begin there, turning the home into the coldest of places. Repeated complaints act like an acid, eating away at the foundation bricks of the shared home, turning beautiful memories into gloomy burdens that cling to both minds. A word once spoken is like an arrow shot. It cannot be retracted. In family life, bitter words or critical complaints are the fastest destroyers of affection. Guarding one's speech and avoiding hurtful sentences is the core foundation for protecting peace under one roof. Knowing how to pause for a second before anger takes over and choosing a gentler word, you protect your own happiness and that of the person beside you. A soft, warm voice always possesses a greater healing power than any harsh criticism, helping to soothe the weariness after a long day facing the storms of life. Many people think that nagging is an expression of care, a desire for the partner to improve so that life is more orderly. But in reality, hidden beneath those complaints is a desire for control, forcing others to follow one's own lifestyle and habits. When the goal is not met, frustration transforms into harsh words that wound the listener's self-esteem. A relationship based on imposition and control will soon become stifling, making both feel exhausted and wanting to escape the shared space that should have been their safest haven. Patience and the use of gentle, harmonious words are the best medicine for every fracture in a family. Instead of criticizing a small mistake, an understanding silence or a gentle reminder preserves the minimum respect between two people. A truly peaceful family is not a place where mistakes never happen, but a place where flaws are viewed through the eyes of tolerance and the understanding of true love. When you know how to lower your ego and give in a little, the storms will naturally pass without leaving any scars on the trust and affection of both parties. In the ancient teachings of the Buddha, the image of the couple Nakulapita and Nakulamata stands as a mirror reflecting a marital bond that remains steadfast through the years. For 500 previous lifetimes, they were always partners, walking through countless ups and downs without a single quarrel or resentment, offending each other even in the smallest detail. When they met the Buddha, expressing their heartfelt wish to remain together in future lives, They were taught the 4 qualities of harmony to preserve that auspicious bond. These are not difficult theoretical lessons, but simple harmonies in daily life through faith, virtue, generosity, and wisdom. Equal faith means first believing in wholesome things and the law of karma, or cause and effect, so that one naturally fears hurting others. When both share this belief, self-discipline forms without the need for supervision, scrutiny, or suspicion. Each person will know to stop before doing something that could harm the other, keeping their heart pure and oriented toward the good, and not letting external temptations shake their loyalty. This shared faith creates a solid spiritual anchor, helping them overcome the waves of daily life without ever feeling lonely. Equal virtue is about loyalty, honesty, and not deceiving or harming anyone. A solid home cannot be built on the sinking sand of suspicion and lies. When both voluntarily maintain a virtuous lifestyle, trust in each other becomes as natural as daily breath, requiring no forced proof. This creates a space of absolute peace under one roof, where each person can relax their mind without fear of betrayal or hurt. Equal generosity is about being open-handed, ready to share, and not selfishly keeping things for oneself, but thinking of the other before thinking of oneself. In a shared life, kindness is not found in grand gestures, but in tiny acts, like preparing a glass of warm water when seeing the other is tired, or an understanding silence when the other needs space for peace of mind. It is the willingness to shoulder life's hardships together without complaining or calculating who does more, viewing the partner's happiness as the joy of one's own life. Equal wisdom is the ability to perceive everything calmly, understanding that everything in this world changes and nothing is permanent. From this, one learns to soothe their own anger. With wisdom, one realizes that an unwashed bowl or an unswept corner is not an insult to one's dignity, but merely a normal occurrence in daily life. Thus, the mind is not dragged into useless disputes, maintaining stillness amidst the chaos of the mundane, and not letting momentary frustrations blur a century of devotion. When these 4 harmonies are present, the distance between two people naturally disappears like mist melting under the sun. Daily scrutiny and nagging no longer have ground to exist because the mind is occupied with deep tolerance and understanding. This resonance helps them look in the same direction, sharing common values and turning a shared life into the most authentic and beautiful journey of spiritual practice, right in their own home without needing to seek it anywhere far away. The karmic ties of human beings are like a river that flows incessantly, sometimes calm and peaceful, sometimes turbulent and full of obstacles. Meeting in this life is a matter of fate, but how long you stay together is a matter of the debt from previous lives. Some connections come to stay until silver hair and white teeth, but some only pass through to teach each other a lesson in patience before quietly parting ways. When this is understood, the heart will naturally find peace amidst the changes of destiny. One no longer stubbornly clings to what does not belong to them, nor resents life or torments themselves over things that do not go as planned. While the connection remains, enjoying sweet moments together is something to be cherished. Eating a warm meal together every evening, looking at a flower blooming by the porch, or simply sitting in silence together as the sunset fades on an old wall. However, life is ever-changing and nothing is eternal. If one day that connection shifts or the feelings are no longer whole, accepting it calmly and letting go gracefully is the kindest way to treat one another. Letting go here is not coldness or indifference, but a serene acceptance that the lesson for the two of you is complete, making room for new paths for each person in peace and mutual respect. Every resistance to the natural laws of life only brings exhaustion and suffering. When it rains, grumbling at the weather or trying to force the rain to stop is impossible. Instead, one can only choose to carry an umbrella or patiently wait for the rain to end. It is the same with relationships. Forcing a partner to be perfect and to always behave exactly as you wish is the root of all suffering. Accepting reality as it is, without judgment and without demand, is the best medicine for the soul, helping one pass through stormy days in the most gentle and serene way. In the fading darkness of a dying day, as the last streaks of sunlight retreat behind the rooftops, looking back at the journey reveals how short a human life truly is. To be able to share a bed and walk through years of life's storms together. So many karmic ties from many lifetimes had to converge to take shape. Yet, there are times when people heartlessly use bitter words to wound each other over a forgotten grain of salt, a pile of laundry not yet folded, or an insensitive remark made in a moment of fatigue. Those trivialities are not worth staining a rare century-old connection, turning the days together into a series of jealousy and resentment. When you try to put yourself in the other person's shoes, seeing the worries etched in the corners of their eyes and the fatigue weighing on their shoulders from the pressure of making a living, aging, and illness, the irritation will naturally vanish. Looking at a spouse with eyes of compassion instead of judgment helps the heart soften, realizing that they are also just an ordinary human with their own flaws and hurts. Silence at this time is not distance or coldness, but a quiet space for both minds to rest after the storms of the outside world, a place where understanding speaks for itself without the need for words. A simple act like putting down the phone, sitting quietly to sip some warm water, and breathing deeply to feel the fresh air entering the body will help pull the mind back to the present. Everything that has not happened tomorrow or the regrets of yesterday are not real. They only exist in the anxious thoughts of humans. Worrying aimlessly or suppressing resentment only wastes the precious moments of the present. When the mind is still, all external storms will naturally stop at the door of the house, returning the inherent peace to the living space. Husband and wife living together are, in the end, just two travelers who happen to be on the same ferry crossing the river. That ferry ride might be long or short, but eventually there will come a time to stop at a pier for one person to step off first. Instead of using the limited time on the ferry to compete, scrutinize, or make each other suffer with useless complaints, why not look at the flowing water together, enjoy the cool breeze, and cherish each other's presence in every moment? When you know how to appreciate what you have in the present and gracefully let go of what has passed, the journey through life will naturally become light, serene, and filled with peace.